Welcome to HCA Talks Health, brought to you by Health Coaches Academy, the UK's leading health coach training academy. I'm your host, Zena, a certified health coach, and each fortnight I'm joined by experts from across the health and wellbeing space to share insights, ideas, and practical tips you can use to improve your health and everyday wellbeing. As a guest today, we've got Steve Peralta. He is the co-founder and the former chief wellbeing officer of Unmind, one of the world's leading workplace mental health platforms, supporting more than 2 million employees across global organizations, including Disney, Lego, Uber, and British Airways. Steve works as an executive coach, a speaker, and a facilitator supporting senior leaders, founders, and their organizations. Welcome, Steve. It's lovely to have you.
Thanks so much, Zena. Great to be here.
I want to start with Unmind. So tell us more about this initiative. It's a workplace mental health platform, basically. So tell us more, please.
Yeah. So it's a workplace mental health company that I co-founded about 10 years ago now, with my co-founder, Dr. Nick Taylor. And, we help employees look after their mental health, and we importantly help organizations build more mentally healthy workplace cultures so they can support their people better, right? The platform itself, it has various mental health tools and programs and bite-sized micro content, all that stuff created by experts. We've got assessments and trackers. We have access to human therapists and coaches. We also do manager training, leadership development, and we have a comprehensive data and insights sort of dashboard as well. And as of the past few years, an AI mental health and wellbeing coach. It's a very comprehensive ecosystem that supports employees in, like you said, like hundreds of organizations around the world. And my role in it, since obviously co-founding it, I started as a chief content officer. Then after a few years became chief wellbeing officer, which I did for about 7 years. And then now I'm less involved, for the past year and a half, less involved in the day-to-day operations, but still supporting the business through coaching and speaking, facilitation and program design. So sort of that kind of work, but less involved in the day-to-day stuff.
Brilliant. So it's more about the mental health side of things. So it's about supporting and improving mental well-being for employees. But I guess it's not such an easy task. I'm sure that many people have tried to achieve that. So tell us more about some of the strategies that you use to do exactly that.
Yeah, sure. You could say it's not an easy task because of the way we approach work and the culture around work and the system around work. So that makes it difficult, the things that we glorify and normalize and all the rest. But our mind set out, and also the way we've approached mental health in workplaces historically has been less than effective. It's been just problems focused and thinking of mental health as just a set of problems, but it's not. It's something we all have all the time. It's something we can work on proactively. It's something that depends on the environment. So when we started, we decided to bring a different lens to mental health and take a positive, proactive, preventative approach to mental health in organizations. That's now become a bit more of the norm, but back then, 10 years ago, it wasn't. So that's one of the ways we approach it, right? In terms of how we do that, strategy-wise or strategically, there's a lot of practical things that can help. I think, first of all, good mental health education. I think for a while there wasn't very good mental health education. There's a lot of stigma around mental health as well. Again, that's changed over the past decade, and hopefully Unmind's played a part in that. So good understanding, psychoeducation. Employees need access to support before things get really bad, so that's important. You need managers who can have proper human conversations, know how to support their teams. There's research about 2 years ago that highlighted that our managers impact our mental health more than our therapists. So
Really?
that's pretty interesting.
Wow.
But then you also need to think of it beyond just individual. You need to think about the teams, the culture. So psychological safety comes into it. So can teams and people feel safe to speak honestly? Then you need stuff like reasonable workloads, and you need human needs to be met, like autonomy and trust and flexibility. So all those kinds of things, right? And this is a lot of the work has been about making this more normal and proactive and accessible at work. I guess the last thing I'll say, important question to ask within all of that is like, are you just helping people to cope in unhealthy workplaces, or are you starting to make those workplaces healthier? Because that's really important, right? Coping's important, but coping is not flourishing, right? And ideally we want to create workplaces that help employees to flourish. And so yes, they need tools and supports and that, and they need good managers, but you need leaders who understand the impact that they have on people around them. You need cultures that that normalize the right things. And so as you can see, it's quite a expansive way of looking at it, but all of it is a proactive, preventative approach, I would say.
It's not so much, you're not just working with the individual, you're really looking at the bigger system.
Definitely.
You've said that it's quite a big thing, and we had to, it's important work that needs to be done to normalize mental health problems and the fact that we can reach out for support, etc. Do you think that it's more of a problem now, mental health well-being, compared to a few decades ago? Just being curious. Do you think has it always been like this, or is it something that's kind of increased in the last decade?
I think in terms of people struggling, that has increased. But in terms of awareness around mental health, that's also increased. So people are more aware of it. People feel safer to talk about it. All of that's happening. Definitely here in the UK, in the US as well, that's been happening. It's different in different countries, right? In South Africa, it's maybe a little bit further behind, I would say, but it's probably also moving towards increased awareness. But just in terms of what's happened over the past decade or 5, 6, 7 years, whatever, I think COVID onwards, there've been very real macro factors, social, political, economic, cultural, that have really made life quite challenging for a lot of people, right? And so because of that, I think our mental health struggles have increased, and the research would back that up as well.
Definitely. Tell me more about why this topic is so important to you on a personal level.
Yeah, it is important to me. I mean, I guess my background, my experience, my life experience shaped it in some ways. In my 20s, I went through depression, experienced depression. I also struggled for more than a decade with insomnia in my 20s and 30s. And, I lived a very different life back then. It was very difficult. It was lonely. It was scary, all that kind of stuff, right? And so I don't want to romanticize it. But I think looking back, I think it gave me real experience and understanding of what suffering feels like from the inside, right? To hold it as a human being. It then made the idea of well-being very personal, not just like a theory. It was something that I really needed and sort of was trying to find in my life. I wanted to feel more alive and feel more whole and feel like I was living in a way that was expressing my potential in the world, like all of that, right? So that was very real for me. That personal searching ultimately then became my work. I went from a musician, an actor and performer, which there were aspects of that I loved doing, but it was also quite an unhealthy career. But I loved doing that. And then I got away from that industry for a while because it was getting a bit too intense. I took a role as a singer on a cruise liner for about a year and a half. And it was while at sea, actually, that I started becoming really interested in philosophy and psychology and spirituality and reading, and starting to make changes in my own life. I guess it was this reaching towards well-being. And then I had just this idea that somehow I wanted to help people find their own vitality and meaning and purpose and all that in their own lives. I wasn't quite sure how I would do it, but I had this sense of helping people physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So I think the problems led to that. Ultimately, that's sort of what I'm doing today, and it was a bit of like a curvy trajectory, right? But yeah, I would say it grounded or it grew out of the struggles that I had. Then more recently, just the last thing I'll say on that, because it seems to be circular cycle here. Like, I had those troubles during my 20s and 30s. Then I had this move into the well-being career, and then success with Unmind, and like flourishing on the outside from all intents and purposes, right? Doing really well. And then seemingly out of nowhere, like had a catastrophic breakdown starting in October 2024.
Yeah.
And it lasted for a year and a half. I'm now out of it, but still making sense of it, right? It wasn't just burnout, it was real psychological existential collapse. But that itself now is, I think, now moving me into something else that's deeper than just the mental health and well-being space. It seems to be moving me towards like truth and soul, and some of those words, right?
Yeah.
But I'm starting to feel drawn towards exploring, talking about, helping people with understanding how we are all performing the whole time, performing, and how that's taking us away from who we actually are, and it's leading to its own form of suffering. So there's something around there that hasn't quite formed for me yet, but I can feel that this most recent crisis has now moved me towards a deeper direction.
Often very powerful, our own journeys and what we learn, and
Yeah,
the depth that we understand about ourselves, and then realize, wow, I really want to have an impact. I realize what is possible for people out there, perhaps going through the
yeah,
same.
yeah.
What are some of the things, what are some of your go-tos when you experience something like this? What are some of the first steps that you take in your own life to get back to
Mm.
thriving again?
Yeah, yeah. Historically, just during normal challenges and that, I had my go-tos were meditation and exercise and prioritizing sleep, eating healthy, breath work, spending time with my wife and my dog, like all the
Mm.
normal things, right? The things that you would expect. When my breakdown happened, none of those things like could work anymore. Like I was so fragmented and so broken that all I could do was just surrender to it. And so that became part of how I had to deal with it, was just accept it and surrender to it, and allow whatever was happening to happen, and allow all the pain and stuff that I'd pushed down for like decades just to surface, right, and not try and fix it.
Yeah.
And so it was a long, difficult journey, and just moving from moment to the next moment was like my task, and was almost impossible, but I did it. So for a while it was simply that, just accepting and surrendering. Then when I was able to get outside again and all the rest, it was getting out into nature. I live in the English countryside, and I got a woods next door, so literally just spending a lot of time in the woods was amazing. Just hugging my dog, it's almost like just recontacting life again. I think that's really important. And now I'm doing stuff like meditation again, and my exercise and all that's important. But I would say when you're really struggling, it's about contact with self and other and life, which we sometimes get distracted from and pulled away from because we're so busy and all the rest, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's interesting how, it's so easy to want to distract ourselves when we're in that space, when there's a lot of pain.
Mm,
But what you've said is, be with it, accept it,
100%.
let the pain surface instead of kind of rubbing it under the carpet and trying to
Yeah.
mask it with all kinds of other stuff, which could be really beneficial, the meditation and the dog and the nature and all of that, but also being there
Yes.
and accepting what is so important.
Yes. And it can be very difficult, but sometimes those feelings we've pushed away are big,
Yeah.
deep existential feelings, right? But what I've learned is that the only way is through. And I know that's a cliche, but it literally is. You need to meet it and open
Yeah.
to it and feel it, and then it can transmute and teach you things and all the rest, right? It's the stuff you read about, but when you really experience it yourself, you know the truth of it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly. It's that saying, I don't know if you've heard it, the what you resist persists.
yeah,
But
exactly,
if you don't open up to it and you don't deal and accept with it, it's gonna keep on coming back,
definitely,
right? Yeah.
definitely, yeah,
I know that many people going through something or some mental health issues, they tend to turn to AI. And I know that AI and ChatGPT is actually kind of acting as a therapist for many,
Yeah, yeah,
wanting to work through issues. And I know that this is something that you've been exploring recently, especially when it comes to health coaching as well, whether AI can actually support mental health and well-being as well. And you've
yeah,
even designed an AI coach. Tell us more about what it is and what it isn't.
yeah, sure. Um, yeah, and it's a complex thing. There's, I mean, during my breakdown, there was a time where I became obsessed with using AI to try and understand what was going on, and you feel like it's helping you, but it's not. I mean, it is to a degree. Depends how you use it, but it was taking me ever more into my head and away from my body and away from
Uh,
relationships. So like, there's a risk there, a trap, right? However, I think it can be useful as well. Like, and as you've said, at Unmind, we have been exploring how to use AI in the mental health and wellbeing space, and we've developed our own AI mental health and wellbeing coach called Nova. Um, so, it would seem illogical if I said that we can't bring AI into the mental health and wellbeing space, given that we've done it at Unmind. But let me sort of talk my way through it, I guess. I think AI can be a reflective tool. It can mirror back some of your patterns and so on to you, so a source of awareness. It can help you perhaps name what you're feeling if you might not have words for it. It can help you think through things. It's really good at spotting patterns, obviously. It's brilliant at that. It can maybe help you prepare for difficult human conversations you might have, or work out a next step. So like anything that involves that kind of sort of pattern making and really sort of actionable stuff, I think it can be helpful for sure. But also not everyone has access to a therapist or a coach or a manager or a trusted friend. So sometimes it can be all that someone has access to, and it can be a source of support, right? So it can lower the barrier to someone getting support. So that's really important. But you have to be clear about what it isn't. Like you say, it's not a therapist, it's not a friend, it's not a person, it doesn't care about you, it's not affected by you. It can't hold space with you in the same way that another human being can. And all of those things are critical to healing, right? So when it comes down to, like, AI should be seen as a bridge to reconnection with humanity, with a therapist or with people in your life, or that kind of stuff. So like, it should be a bridge. It can help, like I said, help you reflect or whatever it might be, helping you with in the moment. But it must reconnect you with real support. And so Unmind treats it like that, right? We've designed it so that it is a support to and an augmentation of human support. And we're ultimately trying to move the person back to re-engagement with their life or their therapist and that kind of thing. So that's really important. So something else that we've done at Unmind that's also really important is that we remind people that they are dealing with an AI chatbot, right? Not a human being. As you've probably noticed with ChatGPT and the like, it's very seductive. It's mimicking real human interaction.
Yeah.
It's mimicking empathy and care, and so that can be great for someone who's feeling lonely and so on. Yes, but it can also create a dependency on that AI for relationship, which is ultimately not real at the end of the day. It is not a human being, and so then that human becomes used to that kind of a consistent, sycophantic way of relating without any friction, always approving, and then you expect that from your real life relationships, and so you become less skilled at actually real life and real relationships. Like, that's the danger in it. So it should be seen as a tool, understand what its limitations are, understand what it's good at, and they should be designed with those kinds of ethics in mind, like not to try and create the illusion of real humanity, but it's not that. So
Yes.
to be seen for what it is. Yeah.
So not only can it take you out of your body, but into your mind, but it can actually also take you out of real life and out of real deep
Yeah.
connection, which
Yeah.
kind of aggravates the issue sometimes, especially
Sure.
with
Just
the mental health
yeah.
thing.
Exactly, just into more abstraction and more getting in your head, but it's seductive, and you think it's like working, and you think it's making that you're making progress, but because the ideas aren't coming from you, and they're not coming from relating, it's like it's making it worse if it's being used in the wrong way, I would say. Yeah. And so that's why, like I said, at Unmind, we've designed it to not do that. We've designed it to be very helpful, but to always remind the user that they are interacting with an AI chatbot, and then the goal is to move them towards human support. Like, that's how we are thinking of it.
That's so important. So it's bridging that gap. It's, yes, the practical side of things. That's useful. That's where, what are
Yes.
some of the practical steps that you can take, or some of the discussions or conversations that you need to have. It can see those patterns, name, feeling, awareness, but then the ultimate
Yeah.
is really moving you back towards human connection and real life, and being out there, right? And thriving
Yes.
in a real way.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Because you're not going to thrive and flourish by being stuck in front of your screen or your phone, or you know what I mean. That's not going to happen. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. Have you ever wondered whether you could turn your interest in health and wellness into a meaningful career? At Health Coaches Academy, we train people just like you to become professional health and wellness coaches through our Level 5 diploma. It's a 12-month part-time course, fully accredited, and designed to give you the skills, confidence, and practical knowledge to help others transform their health while building a career you love. If this sounds like something you'd like to explore, visit healthcoachesacademy.com. Now, back to the show. Okay, so thinking about coaches, do you think that this is a tool that coaches should be using or could be using in practice? Do you think it's a useful addition?
I think it can be useful, but again, it can be seductive, and it can be used in ways that disconnect you from your real capacities as a coach, if you're not careful, right? So you can use it well, as long as you don't forget what coaching is, and that you should be the center of your coaching. Obviously the client, but in terms of your coaching, you need to be the center, not the AI, right? So, you can use AI to prepare for sessions. I'm sure many coaches do. You can think through themes. You might, workshop powerful questions you might want to ask, but you can create exercises and summaries and create resources, all that kind of stuff, I guess you can do. And then if you have proper consent from your client, and if you're able to record sessions, you can review transcripts and notice patterns, and you can even use it, and I've done this before, is use it to assess my coaching and just sort of get a bit of coaching on my coaching, that kind of thing. Just notice. So I mean, it depends how you want to use it. You can use it for the business side of things. So I think it can be useful, again, if you use it in that way, right? Not to outsource your own presence, creativity, and capacity as a coach. So that's how I think of it. I mean, there's probably many other ways you could use it as well, right? But it should be something that it gives you capacity to have more presence and more listening and more courage, like not the opposite. So maybe it's more like your thinking partner, or your assistant, but not your brain, right?
Yeah, and not your humanity, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You go. Don't outsource your humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that coaches should be worried about AI taking over or replacing coaches as a profession?
I mean, it's worth not having your head in the sand, right? We can see AI is coming into coaching. It's being used in various ways. I think it can support certain types of coaching more than other types of coaching. Any coaching that depends on deep presence and in being able to hold space and relationality and all of those kinds of things, right, which a lot of coaching does, it can't replace that. So it may seem like it can, but I think ultimately people are going to want to come back to human beings. And I see it in my own coaching, like that's what people want, right? There was maybe even a moment of thinking that AI could just replace coaches, but I think now we're starting to move towards realizing that it can't. It is never going to be another living being that can hold space, or that can be imperfect, that can rupture, that can repair, relationship in the moment. All those things are really important for healing and growth and all the rest, right? So it's good for the reasons I've said. So it can be an augmentation, I think, but I don't see it as a replacement. Yeah. But you should be smart and perhaps become somewhat savvy with AI, so you can use it well to where it makes sense, make things a bit more efficient for you, but don't make things that shouldn't be efficient. Only the stuff that is normally like administrative work that you can now outsource to AI. You know what I mean? You can just use it more smartly, I would say.
Yeah, know, like we've discussed earlier, know what it is and what it isn't.
Yeah.
If you think about, we've discussed some elements there, coming back to yourself after a difficult period. We've discussed how important it is to have awareness, to be with the pain, let it be, but also coming back to real life, being with nature, with our dogs, our pets, our family. Is there anything else? Is there anything else that you can think of that we perhaps didn't touch on? What really helps people to change in the end, or to heal and to come back to themselves that we perhaps didn't discuss yet?
Yeah. I think heal is a good word to use there. Like, I did a talk recently about AI and well-being, and I spoke about healing and how it's related to the word whole. So it's about becoming whole again. We become fragmented, we give away bits of ourselves to various things throughout our life, and so it's about like becoming whole again. So I think it's a way to think about healing, and with that in mind, like, we can't get there through just information. Information can help. So in other words, AI can help, but it's not enough. We get there through feeling safe enough to feel what we need to feel, and safe enough to speak our truth and know that it's not going to be judged, and be able to show up without having to pretend we're other than who we are, like all that kind of stuff, right? We heal when we feel that we don't need to be impressive anymore, or fixed, or all that kind of stuff, and striving towards improvement. So, and I'm speaking from my own experience, right? I was certainly someone that was my pursuit of flourishing became the trap in the end as well. Like, became my self-improvement project and optimization project, and it was one of the things that was probably involved in my breakdown. One of the things, not the main thing, but one of the things, right? So when I then think of my breakdown and what really helped me to heal, like I've mentioned some of the things, but one of the key things was my therapist, actually. So I hadn't done therapy my whole life, and then I did it for about 2 years leading up to the breakdown. And I did it more initially because we acquired a therapy and coaching company, and I wanted to just have some experience with some of the therapists. And I saw one lady who, she was in her 70s, and she had 50 years experience as a counselor and a therapist, and she described herself as a spiritual companion as well. And so she seemed like, I thought, cool, I'm going to at least have one session with her. Anyway, that I'm still seeing her today. When I had my breakdown, she offered to meet me every single morning. It was via Zoom because she lives in Ireland, but every single morning for 15 minutes during like the most difficult 2 to 3 months of my breakdown. And it was just meeting her. Like, this wasn't her doing therapy or having any clever insights. She was literally just being there as another human being. And it was literally that, having that other human presence where I could truly be myself and feel my pain and express it and not have it judged or not have to be anything other than who I was. That played such a central role in my healing. And it took time, right? But she really met me. So it was her presence, another human being's presence, not the clever insights I was getting from AI. It was the other human being's presence that really helped me. Like, she didn't treat me like a problem to solve. She just met me as another human being, and it mattered so much, right? So I would say that the most important things are safety and truth and presence and relationship. But I think healing is coming back into relationship. That's what healing is. It's coming back into relationship with yourself, with your body, with your feelings, with the parts of yourself that you've like exiled, with people, with nature, with life with a capital L, all those kinds of things, right? And like we said earlier, we we disconnect ourselves from all of that through this pursuit of like success and performance and achievement and improvement. And we've bought into, I guess, yeah, we bought into the lie that that's how we claim our self-worth. And our culture's like driven on by it, right? So healing is letting go all of that and coming back to all those really important relationships, I think.
I think that's part of the problem for many people. We're always working towards something, like you said, to
Yeah.
increase, or even yourself as a project. I mean, even in coaching, we can fall into
Yes.
that trap. How can you improve? What else do you need to do to work towards that vision? But then we tend to miss out on what already is. You're always
Yes.
there, but what is right now? And that's where you said it's so powerful to just have someone hold that space for you now, right now. They don't have to have any
It is.
sides. It's just being there with what is.
It is.
Um,
And I think just to just comment on what you just said there, it's important that that striving and that needing to improve. If you look at it, and what I realized for myself, it was me trying to control things. Life is way much bigger than anything that you can control, right? And so another part of the healing was surrender, like surrendering to what wanted to happen, was trying to happen through me. I mean, I don't have the right language for it, but so surrender is really important. But that doesn't mean like giving away your agency. There's like a both and of surrender, listening, but then acting in line with what you hear and notice. So like it's a surrender and agency together, but it's not control. When we try and control things, that's when we're going to run into problems.
Yeah, you're not a passive participant in life.
No,
There's
no.
there's letting go of thinking that you can control everything. That's
Yes, yes. And when you do that, then you don't limit yourself, and life can open up in ways that you may not have imagined for yourself, right?
yes, exactly. Yeah, wow, very, very important work that you're doing. And so when we're thinking about if someone's listening today, and
Mm.
they want to find out more, where can they go? I'm sure the website, the Unmind website, is a good place to start. Anything else that you want to
Yeah,
point
sure.
them towards?
Yeah, sure. So there's unmind.com. There's my own website at steveperalta.co. Um, I've got a Substack called Not a Machine. I did some writing, then I stopped, but I'll probably get back into that for a bit. There's LinkedIn. And then I'm busy recording an album, but I've been releasing a few songs on Spotify. So if you're
Yeah,
interested in that, you can check it out.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so for people listening today, if you want to, we've touched on quite a few things, but if there's one thing that you can leave them with today, what would that be?
Um, I think within the context of what we've been saying, I think, and especially the context of health coaching and working with clients and just our own lives, I think don't use well-being as another way to run away from yourself or your truth,
Mm,
right? A lot of us, I think, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, so this isn't a judgment. A lot of us are trying really hard to be well, and life's challenging, right? Um, how that manifested for me was we're tracking and improving and optimizing and learning and reading and listening to podcasts, and which is great, right? And it can help, but it can also become like this another form of performance and
mm,
another form of not just accepting who you are, right, and avoiding what you're feeling. So I think the invitation is practicing turning towards yourself and being honest with yourself and feeling what's there to be felt, being more tender, more vulnerable, becoming curious and asking yourself, what am I avoiding feeling? What have I pushed away over the years because it felt too vulnerable or too angry or too needy, right? Or too sad, all those things that we are afraid of feeling. Because I think what I've learned, that's where you're going to find yourself. And then through that comes real flourishing, not
mm.
not the like improvement focused flourishing, right? So I think aliveness isn't becoming a better version of yourself. It's like I said, wholeness. It's recovering parts of yourself that you've abandoned and exiled. So come back to the self.
Yeah, and embracing the full spectrum, I guess. of life.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
just
definitely.
about being happy or being,
No,
all the positive emotions, but it's about accepting this wide spectrum and knowing that that's where true flourishing
definitely.
can take place instead of striving towards this maybe fake or artificial well-being form of well-being.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. It's really been a privilege. I think, it's such a grounded and an authentic conversation. So thank you for doing the work that you've done in your own life to be able to share that with people around you. And I think it's interesting times ahead for us as well with AI, but it is quite reassuring to know that, that human element, holding space for someone in an authentic way, will remain so central. And I think the real opportunity is maybe in embracing also as coaches the technology, to enhance the work that we're doing as coaches, but not really replacing it. Um,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So thank you.
Thanks, Zena. I really enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners for joining us today. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to share it with friends or family who might find it inspiring. And if you'd like more insights like this sent directly to your inbox, make sure to sign up for our fortnightly HCA Talks Health newsletter. We've popped the link in the show notes. See you next time.